Well, it's great to be back at Albury Vineyard, one of my local producers here in Surrey. So I've been visiting, I think, quite a few times over the years, but it's always nice to come here just in advance of the reopening of the country a little bit more over the course of the next month or so. So thanks for welcoming me here.
It's lovely to see you here, John.
Look forward to discovering a bit more about what's new for Albury. So I think my first question was regarding sort of the original planting of Albury was back in 2009. At what point did rosé become a strong focus for you? Was it sort of right from the beginning? Was it planned? How did it come about?
A still rosé was always part of the plan. Stephen Skelton helped me plant this vineyard, and at that stage I knew very little about English wine apart from the fact that I liked the ones I'd tasted. And we had tasted one or two still roses. I think one from Camel Valley actually that we particularly liked.
Yeah, the Camel Valley Pinot.
And we planted mainly, as you know, the traditional champagne grape varieties here, but also planted some Seyval on Stephen's recommendation. And the original plan was to make a still rosé from Pinot Noir and Seyval. And that's partly because we wanted a still wine, and partly because, you know, you can get a little bit quicker return on still wines than sparkling wines. So that was the plan. And then we had our first harvest in 2011, having planted in 2012, very small harvest. And at that stage we had two separate winemakers for sparkling and still wine.
I remember that.
And it was impossible to split the wines or the grape varieties between the two. So basically we gave all of the red grapes that year to Ulrich Hoffman. And all of the white grapes to Dermot at Whiston, who was our sparkling wine maker at that stage. And that therefore meant that we had Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier for our first still rosé. And that's the way it stayed pretty well throughout all the years. And you know, we were so delighted with the first rosé that we had, and you know, we had a bit of a whirlwind because it was chosen to be on the Royal Barge, part of the Jubilee celebrations, and then the Royal Opera House listed it, and then Raymond Blanc took it, and then I realised I only had 800 bottles. So, but that was a sort of like, you know, our first ever wine, so it's remained special in our hearts.
It's a special wine, and it's sort of become a bit of a cult rosé in Surrey and also for Albury. So, what has been the secret to its success? What do you think?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's a wine that almost everybody loves. You know, so I think the fact that it's, I mean, a lot of people do compare it to Provence rosés, and obviously they've, you know, done really well over the last decade.
Absolutely.
And people have become accustomed to that taste. They like the freshness, a bit of fruitiness, and people do compare it to that. Although of course the grape varieties are entirely different.
Absolutely.
And I often say that, you know, it's a bit more like a Sancerre rosé maybe.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense.
But I think it's you know, it's fresh. It's the sort of wine that people feel as though they can drink a bottle of, you know,
very easily. Yes,
and especially in the summer, you know, nice warm summer day rosés are fantastic, and that applies to all. But I think the style of it being sort of fresh with a fair amount of fruit, the summer fruit flavours in it, is something which people really love these days.
No, I think it's a really good combination, and I think that's where the difference is with the Provence. They tend to be a little bit more delicate, but still have that crisp, dry style which people associate with. But our English rosés have a bit more sort of red fruit and that the classic Pinot character.
Yeah, the summer fruit flavours. And I think people like that, and that balances the sort of the acidity, the high acidity, really quite well. And there's quite a high content of Pinot Meunier, so you know, it's normally about 55% Pinot Noir and 45% Pinot Meunier, which it is this year too. And I don't know, I think maybe the Pinot Meunier gives an extra sort of something special to it as well.
So that it's a difficult balance to find with rosé, but you're obviously doing a great job because it sells out very quickly year on year.
It does, and that's the challenge really. You know, we could probably sell twice as much without trying too hard. And it's all on allocation now each year, and you know, we release it early May normally, and it's 8th of May this year, and you know, we've already sold, you know, large part of that, or all of the allocation to the trade is there, and we've got sort of, I don't know, 1,000 bottles or more already on order from Wine Club and such.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we can't ask. You know, it's we're lucky to be in that position. and obviously there's an expectation that it's going to be a really nice wine again each
Exactly.
year.
So that was going to be my next question, really. We're going to be tasting it shortly, but
yeah.
what to expect from the 2020 based on what you've tasted so far?
Well, I would say this, wouldn't I? But I think it's one of, if not the best wine we've ever made, and I think it's largely down to the quality of the fruit last year.
It was a great year, wasn't it?
Which was exceptional.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to add any. Sometimes you have to. If the fruit hasn't ripened, you have to add a little bit of sugar in the fermentation process, and we didn't need to do that. It was all natural alcohol.
Fantastic.
And I think there's a sort of a depth of flavour. There's a little bit more fruitiness there but the acidity is still sort of quite high. So for me, I mean, I took it only came out of the tank last week, so we normally like it to settle for a
Absolutely,
month, at least. And but we had I took home a bottle to my wife, and she really loved it. So that's always a big thumbs up.
I think, like the movement, the Great British Rosé Week, it really is a good celebration of a very important style of wine in England, both in the sparkling and the still side. I think we've really carved an identity for that, and people have got a familiarity and a comfort with English rosé now.
I think so, and I think it's there's a big opportunity for still wines now in England to expand in popularity quite considerably. Obviously, sparkling wines, traditional method, classic method sparkling wines have led the way in terms of a halo brand for the UK, but there are some fantastic still wines being produced now.
Absolutely.
And I think they'll come more and more to the fore, and certainly rosé is one of the major classifications, I think. And we've probably got Provence a lot to thank, Provence for, because they've sort of elevated rosés.
Absolutely.
Into a premium wine, at a price point, which makes a lot of sense if you're producing wines in England.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So and now people are getting used to the fact that English wines are great wines, and they're saying, well, I won't have a bottle of Provence, I'll have a bottle of English rosé, which is fantastic.
Fantastic. So I think probably the next best thing will be to get on to have a taste of the wine, and then we will sort of pick it up from there.
Okay, right, good.
Fantastic. Great, we've got the wine in front of us. This is the Silent Pool 2020 Rosé, which is releasing on the 8th of May.
8th of May, yeah.
Fantastic. So, really look forward to trying it, because I've been a big fan of this wine over the years, and one of the first wines of 2020 that I'll be tasting.
Well, I hope you like this one too, John.
Absolutely, I'm sure I will. So, shall we give it a taste?
Cheers. The first thing you probably might notice is it just seems slightly darker than last year, actually. That's probably to do with the colour of the fruit, I think. Yeah,
because it was a really ripe vintage, 2020. So, and immediately it's got that classic intensity, zingy, grapefruit, cranberry, tangy cherry flavour, which is great, but there's a really good cherry depth to it on the mid palate, considering this was only bottled last week as well, so it's probably going to be a bit more expressive in a couple of weeks, but it's already got that instant gratification that you expect from a glass of Silent Pool.
Nice of you to say that. I mean, it's I tasted a bottle earlier this week. I say tasted a bottle, that doesn't seem to I've drank the whole bottle with my wife, but and we thought, we really loved it. It did have the classic. It's amazing, actually, how we seem to be able to get a very similar wine each year.
Year on year, yeah.
Year on year, and we did for our 10th anniversary. I nearly said last year, but last year was a missed year, wasn't it? It was the year before. We tasted all of the rosés throughout the years that we produced since the 2011. And they all, whilst they were different, they all had lots of similarities.
Signature style. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you really taste that ripeness from the vintage showing through on
I think so. I think
sort of the richness of the red berry flavour.
That's the big difference for me from the we're never disappointed with this wine, but it was exceptional fruit last year. And I think Matthew at Olympus has done a fantastic job making the most of it as well.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely classic Silent Pool, but with a little bit more, even more fruit forward than it usually is. And it's usually a very red fruit led rosé, but with that zesty classic English acidity as well.
It is, yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like it.
No,
Thank you.
Good.
I think
it's
this
fantastic.
I think this is not going to last very long.
No, exactly. So people that want to buy it, you're not taking pre-orders yet.
No, only for the wine club.
Just for the wine club. But
yeah.
you'll be able to buy it online from the 8th, whilst it lasts, basically.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll last a month or so.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely to last, beyond July, I would have thought, which is frustrating. Because it would be nice to have a little bit more
to enjoy in the summer.
To enjoy in the summer, yeah. Well, we always keep a little bit back for ourselves.
Of course, you have to.
You have to, yeah. So that's a nice thing to do. But it will be a very popular drink over the summer.
Yeah.
And there's always a balance, because I think, when the still wine is available, then people obviously buy less sparkling wine. So in some ways, it's good that it's only available for a relatively short period of time,
and then
so
people can go to the sparkling.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So looking ahead to May, obviously you've got the release of the rosé, the 2020 rosé on the 8th of May, but the week before that you're reopening for tours and sort of got organised tours now in the vineyard. So that's going to be a great opportunity for you to re-engage. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people eager to get back to Albury, and you're going to be eager to see them.
We are. Well, it's what Albury's all about. I mean, I think when we kicked off Albury, it was all about the wines and what wines we're going to produce and how we're going to sell them and what we're looking forward to. And it's still about the wines, but what Albury's turned into is a sort of an event location. And it's all about the experience really.
Absolutely.
At Albury. And we now sell 40% of our wine directly to the public. And a large part of that comes from people coming in here to a tour and tasting or a cheese and wine tasting or music events. There's always something happening here at Albury. And I think, Lucy, my daughter, has this little strap line. We try and make it informal too. So she has children, dogs and muddy boots welcome. It's that type of vineyard really. And whilst we're serious about our wines, I think we don't go overboard on that. We want people to have a great time here. So being closed during lockdown, didn't feel like Albury really.
No, I can imagine. It's
and it's we're already opened up to let people come at weekends now and have some wine. But the tour and tastings, you're right, start at the beginning of May.
Well, we came last year for our anniversary, and I was super impressed by how organised it was and how all of the protocols were followed, and I felt so safe. And that was the first time we'd come out really after lockdown. So would encourage people to get on, book a tour and come and visit Albury, taste some great wine, and have a bit of a good time after all these challenging months, really.
Or if you're not close to Albury, visit another English vineyard. Because most English vineyards, well, pretty well all the English vineyards that I know, they're super safe places to go. They're well geared up to all of the COVID regulations. There's loads of space here. This is one of the big things that vineyards have, is that they've got lots of space. Just need to pray for a bit of decent weather.
We just need weather like this, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, brilliant. Well, thanks, Nick. Thanks for letting me taste the 2020.
Cheers.
Good luck with the launch.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to getting a proper review up at this in the course of the next when it's released. Actually,
when it's released, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Nick. Cheers.